Yeah, get that new Steve Jobs book. Is that creepy right there? How my face is all blacked out right now? What's up? Yo, usually when I hold the book up, I always have the cover. But I'm in Victoria, Canada, or BC, British Columbia, doing shows this week at Heckler's, and I forgot the book cover, so I don't have a. Oh, I didn't forget. I just took it off because I didn't want it destroyed during my travels. So yeah, no book cover, but boom, Steve Jobs, go get it. It's 600 pages almost. Man, see, it's books like these. Look how thick that is. That make me want to read ebooks, but I'm not doing it, people. I'm not caving in. I I love. Let me tell you. Let's just get to the book. The book is dope. You got to get it. I will say this. It gets a little redundant in terms of the author Walter Isaacson constantly talking about how temperamental Steve Jobs is and how he yells at people and crybaby. That kind of gets redundant. And then he was talking about the reality field distortion, which let's talk about that, which is dope. Reality field distortion is basically the way Steve Jobs thinks, in that he believes that if he believes something strong enough, then he can get you to believe it. Even if you initially go, that's ridiculous. There's no way we could do this. Like with the iPhone, when he's talking about how to design it, and his designers were like, there's no way you can just have one button. He was like, no, you can do it. And then eventually go, I can do it, like a robot. And so that's his reality field distortion is so strong. It's basically mind control, man. Is what we're talking about. But the truth is that anything in life, like I think that 80% of the stuff that you think and believe, you can get other people to follow if you really believe it and keep harping on it. The dude is so persistent. I mean, I think that it's so easy to look at a guy like Steve Jobs and say, "Oh, it's because he has a high IQ or he's born in a wealth." But a lot of the stuff that he got off pure work ethic, just being persistent, making the phone calls that what's so funny is as much as we like to talk on the phone and have cell phones and get the latest cell phone, nobody really likes to call the people who would change their lives. We call family friends, but that to call that person who could close the deal for you, or maybe help you with your idea, your business project. A lot of people, the average person, is afraid to make that phone call. Steve Jobs made those phone calls to get his company off the ground. Everything he got, he fought tooth and nail for, and but he was a crybaby. I mean, but it's funny to see that somebody as successful as he is really kind of stomped his foot to the top and was yelling at people. And not to say that that's how you have to do it, but that was just who he was and how he communicated. Um, uh, uh, but one of the big things I want to say about the book, you should definitely get the book because it chronicles his whole life from his childhood and upbringing. So you really get to see how he thinks and what kind of shaped him all the way up into his death. And it's like, I don't know, 50 chapters, but it's an easy read. You really enjoy it. Some of the key things I love about the book I want to take out of here is one, he talked about innovation. And I know you're like, what does this have to do with me? Like, I don't care about no innovation. But he said that in order to be great, you have to be willing to forget everything that you've done so that you become everything that you want to be. And he talked about like Bob Dylan, who was people loved him in the beginning, the first half of his career because he played acoustic guitar, and then he decided he wanted to play electric guitar, and he would get booed off stage, because people would come in here and play acoustic, and he'd be like, all right, now we're gonna play electric, and even though the fans booed, he still played, and he played louder and harder, and and to me, that I love that because there are times where like you created something, or you said something, or you dressed a certain way, or did a certain thing, and that worked for you then, but now you're inspired by something else, and now you want to go in a new direction, but it's so hard to change, right? Because people want you to stay who you were. They're like, no, no, I like what you were doing. You're like, yeah, that was good, but now I got this new idea, this new thing, or this new thought. And I think a lot of times flaky gets thrown around of like, oh, you just flaky because you were one way and now you're becoming something else. And it's like, no, I'm transforming, I'm innovating, I've become inspired by something new. I'm allowing myself to be affected by what I see, hear, touch, and feel, which, you know, was what happened for Steve Jobs. In that, if you look at the design of his products, it was inspired by the things that he saw in calligraphy and his trips to India, and he meditated all the time, and he was vegan. It was just so many. He saw himself as a Buddhist samurai. It was just so many cool things. What else? Just real quick. Stay hungry, stay foolish is his motto. People cried, blah blah blah. The best way to predict the future is to create the future. I think that's dope. Uh, Stretches taste. Journey is reward. Uh, he also talked about how the journey is the reward, and um, you can't. You could. Oh no, no. This is what I want to talk about out the book. This is what I really love. He talked about his thinking in terms of products. It was product, marketing, and then distribution. Those were the three key things. But he said number one is product, and to tie into that, he talks about how a lot of companies fail because they focus more on the marketing and not the product. They become more marketing oriented than product oriented. So it's just like, hey, what can we market and what can we sell really easily, as opposed to making a really great product, which is what got them in a great position in the first place. But then they lose sight of that. And so on a personal level, it made me reevaluate my comedy in that I've been thinking about how to market it, and the more time you spend marketing something, the less time you spend on actually developing the product and making something better. So it made me make sure I was keeping I was giving most of my energy to developing better routines and better jokes, and making sure I'm putting on a better show, as opposed to getting people out to the show and spending a lot of my time doing that. And then distribution is the third one. So for a lot of you, even on a relationship level, I think that people are so, especially now, concerned with how they look. It's like, oh, you got to look a certain way, and the makeup, and everybody's getting Botox. I know people in their 20s getting Botox injections, and that's really putting a lot of emphasis on the marketing and not so much on the product, on who you are and developing skills and talents that will get you, that'll last longer and be more I'm not sure what the word, but it'll be something that you can build on and build wealth on. Your looks, that's gonna fade, but like your skills and talent is something that you can use to build a better team and better world. The last thing I want to say about the book, what I found, and this is the best thing, he wasn't smart. Yes, his IQ was high, but in terms of what he really didn't know too much about technology and computers. But what he was really good at was bringing the right people together to achieve his vision. That was his real genius. And even in a book, they talk about that. They talk about how he really wasn't that smart. And Bill Gates said he's really not that smart, but he's more genius, which I never really thought about separating genius and smart. But I think when smart is more books, genius is requires more of a leap of thought to be able to see in the future, as opposed to being smart is being able to regurgitate information and be able to do math and science and perfect sentences and grammar and all that stuff. But genius is able to take all these different concepts and things and connect it in a way that nobody else has done, so that you're now innovating and creating something that people still, until they see it, to be like, that doesn't make sense, like with the iPhone and iPad and things like that. So he was more genius than smart, but what made him genius is the fact that he recognized that he wasn't the smartest guy in a room and never wanted to be, and instead knew how to surround himself with people who was smarter than he was, so that he can make his visions come to life. So for those of you out there who think you have to be really smart and really good at everything, you don't. Just find somebody. Even Tim Ferriss talks about outsourcing your weaknesses. This is going on way too long. I hope you guys watch it. I'm Leo Flowers. Deuces. I think the next book, I just said deuces. I should have ended it right there. The next book I'm going to read, I want to read Malcolm Gladwell's new book. So I think that'll be the next one. That looks David and Goliath. Peace.